Hi everyone, I'm Hoodie Angel Brandon, and today I wanted to do something a little different. Now, I'm not usually one for movies, but there are a few that I have a soft spot for, mostly animated stuff. Today, I wanted to take a trip down memory lane and check out a movie from my younger years. Pokemon Movie 7, Destiny Deoxys. It's Hoodie Angel Brandon's first ever movie review! Yay! In a sea of Pokemon movies, seriously, there are like 20 of them last time I checked, probably more now. This one kinda gets forgotten. It's not bad, but it doesn't have the nostalgia for a lot of people that the first few did. As a result, it kinda gets lost in the shuffle. This one in particular, number 7, came out in 2004 in Japan and made its way west in the following year. For this review, is it really a review? Anyway, for this video, rather than going in segments, we'll instead go chronologically. And I'll comment on things as they happen. While I'll try and be vague, we are covering the entire plot of the movie, so there will inevitably be spoilers. If you're interested in the movie yourself, well, just beware. Now, before we move into the movie itself, I'd like to briefly give my personal background on it, as it's what I actually credit with getting me back into Pokemon as a franchise. See, I actually grew up with Pokemon right as it was making its way to the West, when I was about 4 or 5 years old. I actually watched the original anime series, but my parents couldn't afford to get me a Game Boy at the time, so I didn't actually grow up with any of the games. Still, I watched the shows, I saw the first movie, and I collected some of the trading cards. I even went as a Ghastly for Halloween in kindergarten. Anyway, as I got older, Pokemon became uncool. It was seen as something for little kids, and I grew out of it due to peer pressure. Move forward to middle school, where I stopped caring what other people thought. I saw this movie being aired on Cartoon Network, and with nothing else on, I watched it even though, again, I'm not really huge on movies. Seeing this movie hyped me up enough to ask for my first Pokemon game, Diamond, for my birthday that year. Without it, I probably wouldn't have tried any of the games. I met a friend because he talked to me when he saw me doodling Triforces and Pokeballs on my notebook in class, and because I met him, I met other friends in turn. And without Pokemon, that might not have happened. As you can imagine, this movie has some sentimental value to me for that reason. But how does it actually hold up? Well, we'll just have to see, no? Also, since I first experienced this with the English dub, that's the one we're going to be taking a look at today, for nostalgia. So with all that out of the way, let's start the movie. And remember, no eating crackers in the cinema. I mean, geez, it's just rude.
The movie starts with its typical intro to the world of Pokemon, and gives us a wonderful visual of what it's like to run out of repels. It also shows us the main cast of characters, or at least the ones who were staple to the anime at the time. Given this took place during the advanced generation around the release of Ruby and Sapphire, this would be Ash, Brock, May, and Max. There are more characters we'll meet as the movie progresses though. And of course, no animated Pokemon experience would be complete without the adorkable Team Rocket. We don't get to formally meet them just yet though. Right away, visually, the movie does suffer from its age. This is from 2004, so of course it doesn't look as nice as something more modern and in HD. However, it does still have some impressive animation at times. With the intro done, we move into the actual movie itself. Deep in the Arctic, a team of scientists are investigating something. The young son of the lead researcher, who we learn is named Tori, is playing with a Spheal. And right off the bat, I have to question who thought it was okay to let a kid who's like 8 years old play in the Arctic tundra? Who thought this was an age-appropriate field trip for him? Right. Forgot this is the world where we leave criminal organizations and threats capable of rewriting time and space itself in the hands of 10-year-olds. You know what? Never mind. This checks out. This is the logical precursor any child should face to dealing with all that. Moving on. When a meteor crashes nearby, it triggers a stampede of Celio and Walrein, and young Tori gets caught up in it. While unharmed physically, this experience will have a lasting mental impact on the boy. Meanwhile, from the meteor's impact, the alien Pokemon Deoxys emerges. Carrying a crystal from the meteor site, it unleashes a wave of energy, but in response, the legendary Rayquaza immediately begins attacking Deoxys. This is actually a pretty cool battle for just being the beginning of the movie, and shows the two being pretty evenly matched, with Deoxys' regenerative powers and form changes keeping pace with Rayquaza's bursts of power pretty well until it gets in a point-blank shot, at which point Rayquaza manages to destroy Deoxys' body, forcing it into its core crystal, which sinks into the sea. With the battle concluded, Rayquaza flies off, and the scientists recover the crystal Deoxys was carrying from the meteor impact site. We then move forward 4 years. A now slightly older Tori chats with a friend who we don't get to see, while his father and a team of scientists attempt to get the crystal to regenerate by firing science lasers at it. They come close but ultimately fail, but at the same time, a certain crystal did in fact regenerate. Deoxys bursts forth from under the ice, seemingly grumpy after its 4-year nap. I will say the intro could be kind of hard to follow on a first viewing, but it makes more sense later on. We next meet up with Ash and Co. as they make their way to the futuristic LaRousse City. As I mentioned in my very old Top 10 Pokemon Cities video, that LaRousse City, as well as ones like Sunny Shore and Opelucid, influenced my thoughts on realistically futuristic cities, which in turn went into how I designed the setting in the book I'm writing. So again, this movie has impacted me even beyond it revitalizing my interest in Pokemon as a series. The city has all kinds of futuristic features, from automatically closing trash cans, moving sidewalks, robotic vending machines, and even security droids. One such robot greets the group of Ash, Brock, May, and Max, giving them their visitor passports, which allow them to access various features of the city. Ash has come to LaRousse to take on its famous battle tower, because as we all know, that's the only endgame content for any Pokemon journey. As the group gets acclimated to the city, they run into some hilarious hijinks and encounter some other trainers, who help them find their way. These guys are the more minor characters for the movie. After one of them gives Ash a super sick burn.
Sure, no need to thank me. I just couldn't continue watching you look like a fool.
What?
Naturally, Ash challenges him to a battle, and he says they can fight at the tower. See, it really is the only place for trainers to go. Once there, Ash attempts to find his way to register, but ends up a bit lost. He attempts to ask for directions, and as luck would have it, the person he runs into is none other than Tori. Unfortunately, due to his prior traumatic experience 4 years ago, poor Tori freaks out at the sight of Pokemon, in this case, Ash's Pikachu. He attempts to flee, but Ash chases him, intent on getting directions and rather oblivious to how uncomfortable poor Tori is. In his haste to escape, Tori and Ash end up getting entered into a double battle together, which is a bit of a problem as, due to his aversion to Pokemon, Tori isn't a trainer. Oops. Ash lends him his Torkoal though, and predictably, this doesn't end well for the duo. Of course, Ash's questionable choice of Pokemon didn't help matters. After the battle, Tori's father, proud that Tori faced his fears, comes to congratulate him, but Tori, who didn't even want to do it in the first place, storms off. His father's assistant then explains about Tori's past experience and subsequent trauma relating to Pokemon. Also, we get like the third instance of someone flirting used as humor. It got old really fast, and there's more of it. Hearing about Tori's problem, Ash resolves to help him overcome his issues and befriend Pokemon. So if you haven't realized it yet, Tori's trauma plays a big role in this movie, and he's a really important character. It feels like it's more Tori's story, and Ash and company are supporting characters, which is actually a nice change of pace from Ash does all the work and saves the day. Though there's some of that too, it's up to Tori to grow and overcome challenges. I guess this could be a turnoff to some since Ash is relegated to more of a support role, but 20 years of being in the spotlight, I think it's fine to take a break from him every once in a while. We also get to see Ash step into more of a mentor role, which is actually pretty cool, and more fitting for someone who has 3 regions worth of experience. Meanwhile, Tori himself has found a Minun trapped in a trash can, and despite his fear is attempting to help. See? Progress already. This Plusle and Minun follow the group around a lot, and seem to have an affinity for Tori. Of course, once Minun is free, he returns to being scared and runs off to see his friend from earlier, who we learn is a glowing, sparkling energy thing? Yep, his only friend is not a person. Oof. I identify with Tori a lot, mostly because we both like blue and have a hard time making friends, but whatevs. At least I can pretend I have friends. Right, Yusung? Tori has some great expressions throughout the movie. He's also a cutie pie. I kinda crushed on him hard when I was a kid. And fun fact, he's what influenced me to get my short-sleeved hoodie because I just loved his outfit. On that note, I got a matching long-sleeved one because of Yusung, so there's some trivia for you. Anyway, Tori eagerly explains how he saved the Minun to his friend. Meanwhile, the Deoxys from earlier makes its way to the city, seemingly searching for something, like a certain crystal that was taken from the place it crash-landed 4 years ago. Deoxys raises an aurora over the city, which catches the attention of many.
Good Lord, what is happening in there?
Aurora Borealis?
Aurora Borealis. At this time of year, at this time of day, in this part of the country, localized entirely within LaRue City.
Yes.
That's it?
Yes.
All the while, Ash attempts to get Tori to open up and has little success. Huh. I guess Tori is a bit more soon than I remember. Team Rocket does some comic relief shenanigans and manage to get some robots to zap them. Nothing new there. Back to the main group, Ash and Tori are on the verge of a fight, when Brock gets the idea to have the group eat lunch. This puts the problems on hold and even gets Tori close to petting Pikachu, but once more his fear gets the better of him. FYI, a good meal usually works on a grumpy Brandon too, so this is actually pretty believable.
There's nothing that can stop an argument better than a bunch of full mouths.
As night falls, Deoxys continues its search, sending out auroras and also disabling electronics, which interfere with its vision. Ash and Co gaze at the aurora alongside some of those minor trainers from earlier. And then we get 2 more flirting jokes back to back. Well, let's just roll with it. Tori makes a surprise return, seemingly having had time to reflect on the efforts of the others to befriend him, and has decided to bring some cookies for them. This kicks off the movie's musical number. Yep, that's right, we get a montage of the Pokémon playing set to the movie's theme, This Side of Paradise, and you know what? For being a song in a Pokémon movie, it's actually really great. This side of paradise is where I want to be, this side of paradise, for you and me, oh. Dancing through the stars with you, oh, take me to this side of paradise. This song is wonderful and sweet and weirdly kind of romantic. As for why there's a romantic song in a Pokemon movie, I couldn't tell you, but between this and all the flirting going on, I'm convinced they want me to ship Tori and Ash OTP. Okay, if you pick apart the lyrics, it's about Tori overcoming the pain of the past and that he's got friends here to support him, but come on, it's not just me, right? This has really romantic undertones and we get really shippy shots of him and Ash playing on the swing. I'm not crazy. Okay, that aside, I think this is one of the scenes that spoke to me as a kid who didn't have many friends, seeing everyone having fun together just bonding over their Pokemon. It's really sweet and touching. Anyway, enough thinking. Ash and Tori have a brief heart-to-heart where Tori explains how his fears have kept him alone, and Deoxys keeps searching. Only now we see it using Psychic to move Pokemon out of the way, as they also interfere with its vision, as we saw in its battle with Rayquaza earlier. You know, maybe Deoxys just needs to get glasses? That might help. Sensing Deoxys' presence, Rayquaza begins to make its way towards the city as well. The following morning, Tori leads the group to meet his glowy energy friend. And they all send out their Pokemon to meet it as well. Deoxys continues disabling electronics, and Rayquaza approaches the city. Professor Lund, Tori's dad, realizes the danger that the two powerful Pokemon could present, and begins evacuating the city. This will soon lead us into the other big plot of the movie, and what really drew me to it as a child, the looming showdown between two legendary Pokemon. The city swiftly evacuates. Like, seriously, half the city is out within an hour. Talk about efficiency. They must have a really good evacuation procedure, and a really catchy slogan.
I'll need a catchy slogan.
Evacuate! As the evacuation proceeds, the group finds themselves unable to leave due to electronics shutting down and locking them in the garden. Who knew our dependency on technology would backfire on us? Deoxys begins to create clones to take people and Pokemon away, and Rayquaza finally arrives, but is locked out of the city by a psychic barrier that also cuts off the wind the city is using for power, turning off everything. Anyway, the group finally escapes the garden only to get attacked by Deoxys. Taking another route, they manage to meet up with the professor's assistant, who I think is named Yuko? I don't remember. She explains that the city switched to the backup generator, but an outside force is still jamming everything, including trainers' Pokeballs, preventing them from being recalled or sent out. It was a fortunate coincidence that everyone let some Pokemon out earlier to meet Tori's friend. Anyway, she brings them up to speed about Deoxys and Rayquaza's past battle in the Arctic, and the group plans their next move. Ash, Tori, and Brock leave the safety of the building they're holed up in to search for food, while some of the others try and find where Deoxys is taking people. Lastly, a third group are just staying behind because, Ash and Tori managed to scrounge up some food and...
Whoa! Gotta catch 'em all!
Ooh, that didn't age well. They then get ambushed by Deoxys and drop most of their food. They manage to escape, but only after Minun gets captured. So that's great. And watching Minun gets captured right before his eyes while he was powerless to stop it just adds more issues for poor Tori to work through. At least they managed to find some bottled water. Totally equivalent exchange. The second group manages to figure out where the Deoxys clones are taking everyone. And everyone meets back up at the shelter. They try to get some rest, but are soon attacked by Deoxys. Uh-oh, we all know what those tentacles mean, right? The group flees to the underground lab, where Professor Lund has been studying the crystal from the meteor impact, and it's revealed for anyone who didn't realize already, aka the main group, that the crystal is Deoxys. Deoxys has been searching for this other Deoxys. Also, we see Tori's Sparkle friend manifest from the crystal. Yep, that is also Deoxys. That's right, my boy Tori befriended Deoxys. Also, the smart girl who I keep forgetting exists manages to decode the Aurora in a matter of minutes and realizes that it was actually Deoxys calling out to its friend. I have a hard time buying that, but gotta keep the plot moving, I guess. And this is where we learn that Deoxys isn't really evil and isn't kidnapping people just for fun, but because they're interfering with its search. This brings us to something I really like about this particular Pokemon movie. There isn't a big bad evil villain who's out to capture the legend and destroy things or anything. Really, there's no real bad guy here. Professor Lund took the core to research. Deoxys abducted people to get them out of the way, while it searched for its friend, and Rayquaza attacked Deoxys to protect its territory from the super powerful alien. The conflict isn't brought about because someone's on a power trip, but due to simple misunderstandings, which is super nice and refreshing. Especially considering half the time in both the movies and the games, it's Team X is trying to get the legendary to destroy or take over the region, oh no! There are some others like this, where no one's really evil, like movie 3 off the top of my head, but it still feels like more often than not, there's some evil big bad guy. I mean, this was one of my big gripes with Sword and Shield, where it felt like they shoehorned a villain in just for the sake of having one. Game Freak, take notes. Anyway, back on topic, now that they know Deoxys isn't evil, Tori and the group decide to try and get the crystal to regenerate so the two Deoxyses can reunite. The group sets out to rescue the missing people and restore the city's power so they can get the laser running for the regeneration, but get ambushed by Deoxys. They manage to hold it off, but Ray gets captured. I think that was his name. To be honest, most of the minor characters are rather forgettable and one of the bigger weaknesses of the movie. And while this is happening, Rayquaza manages to break through the barrier and enter the city. Thus begins the #1 most influential thing that made me interested in Pokemon again, the showdown between Deoxys and Rayquaza. Seeing these two Pokemon with awesome designs going at it got me super hyped when I was younger. I mean, the showdown between these two is so awesome, they paid homage to it in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and took it up to 11 by changing the setting to freaking space. Well, okay, I don't have definitive proof this movie caused that, but it seems like a safe assumption considering these two didn't have any interaction that was canon to the main games prior, and Deoxys is an event legendary that was made easily available through this change. Seems awfully specific to not be referencing something. While the two prepare to clash, Ash and company are on their way to rescue everyone Deoxys kidnapped.
We're with you, Ash!
I don't know why, that's just funny to me. Anyway, they rescue everyone, and then Ash tells Tori he was great.
You were great, Tori.
I mean, I'm like the #1 Tori fanboy cheering him on the whole movie, but he really wasn't. He hasn't done anything yet. It was Pikachu who fixed things. But don't worry, Tori's about to become useful. Kind of.
With everyone rescued, Ash and Tori head back to the lab to regenerate Deoxys from its core, while everyone else works on restoring the power by turning the wind turbines. Even Team Rocket does their good deed for the day and helps out. With everyone working together, and a little boost from Pikachu, Plusle, and Minun, they scrape together just enough energy to fire the laser and bring Deoxys out of its core. The newly regenerated Deoxys uses its psychic powers to fly with Ash and Tori out of the lab. However, the original Deoxys and Rayquaza are still fighting, and I'm suddenly realizing how much this battle is split up across multiple scenes. That's a little unfortunate. The bits we do see are still pretty cool though. Rayquaza seems to gain the upper hand and knocks Deoxys down, which also disables its barrier around the city and causes all the electronics to reboot. The clash continues, this time with Deoxys overwhelming Rayquaza. Just before it can deliver the finishing blow, the second Deoxys intervenes and the two reunite. With the two together, we finally have our happy ending. But wait, Rayquaza attacks the two. Still upset they're in its territory. So Rayquaza isn't evil, but it is kind of a jerk. The fight begins anew with Rayquaza taking on both Deoxys. And it's a nice touch that the Deoxys move Ash and Tori to safety first. See, Tori really did have a friend. The struggle causes the city's security droids to malfunction, however, and they begin literally flooding the city. Like seriously, where were they even storing them all? There's so many here. There's so many, in fact, that they even overwhelm Rayquaza. The Deoxys duo step in to help, but even all three legendary Pokemon are no match for this Robo Flood. Ash and Tori look on, but before they can do anything, Professor Lund contacts them and informs them that the only way to stop the block robots is for Tori to scan his passport for the Master Robot, which will unlock the system just long enough for the Professor to regain control. The two begin making their way towards the robot, but get separated. Ash continues on and attempts to scan his card, but it falls below. So, just before he gets swept away by the robots, Tori throws his passport to Ash, who manages to scan it and stop the robots. And still a prime opportunity for Tori to be the hero. Man. At least Tori still helped. As the robots come to a halt, Plusle and Minun almost fall from the now enormous stack of droids, and Tori comes to the rescue, finally putting aside his fear of Pokemon to save them. Unfortunately, he falls with them, but they're saved by Deoxys, so it's all good. The lesson is, Friends will always be there for you. Or something. Everyone is unharmed, and thanks to the Deoxys trying to save Rayquaza earlier, the Legendary realizes the two meant no harm. The Deoxys duo departs, and while he's sad to see his friend go, Tori realizes he's made new friends who have helped him grow and overcome his trauma. And cue the credits!
So, was it the best Pokemon movie ever? Yes, absolutely. Okay, fine, maybe not. But that still didn't stop me from enjoying it. It was nice to revisit it after all these years and see what exactly it was that brought me back to this series in the first place, as well as see all the other minor influences it's had on my life. And even with that said, I still do think it holds up pretty well. There isn't as much action as I had remembered, being broken up between multiple scenes, but what is there is still pretty cool, at least for the time. And there was a little too much messing around, a little filler, but certainly not the worst movie I've ever seen. If you have some time, I do recommend checking it out. It's a cute, feel-good movie that doesn't even really need that much knowledge of the Pokemon universe to understand and follow along. And who knows, maybe it'll even influence some other would-be trainers to take their first steps towards Pokemon mastery. Thank you guys as always so much for joining me. This is something I've wanted to do for a long time, and I'm excited to share something that has had such a big influence on me with all of you. Until next time, this is Hoodie Angel Brandon, signing out.